Hi, everyone. As you know, this is Feelings Friday. So, last week we talked a little bit about changes that are coming and feelings that we feel, and just feelings in general. Some days we feel happy, some days we feel sad, some days we feel a combination of all kinds of things, excited, scared, silly. So, it's important to talk about these feelings when we feel them and maybe try to recognize why we're feeling a certain way. Like maybe we feel a little angry. Why are we feeling angry? Are we feeling scared about something? Are we worried? Why are we feeling so happy? It's important to recognize that too. Are we so excited because summer is coming closer and closer? I know that makes me feel very excited. Um, Draw about those feelings too. If you didn't last week, I think it's fun to kind of say, like, oh, this week was a hard week. I'm going to draw about it. I'm going to draw about how hard this week was and what was frustrating for me or what made me feel really good and happy, right? So sometimes when we draw about it, it makes us feel better if we weren't feeling great, or it makes us feel like, oh, like that makes me happy. I want to do that again because that makes me feel so good. Anyway, this week, we're talking a little bit more about changes. So focusing on that word change. Can you say that? Change. So friends, Uma and Daniel and Emmeline and Zachary and Isa, I hope you're listening in on this video because I want you to really think about that word change. So many things change. So I'm going to read a little bit about what I wrote in the calendar, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you can do to talk about change at home. Let's talk about changes. So, in life, things change all the time. The seasons change, our clothes change, and our bodies change too. And we're going to be talking about life cycles soon. So, bugs' bodies, animals' bodies change, and plants too, which is what we're talking about this month. What kinds of changes have you experienced this year? So, recently, when you think about things going on in your life, what changes have you experienced? It's hard to remember them all. So many have happened. Maybe you moved. Maybe something else happened this year. Maybe you met a new friend. I don't know. Think about some changes you experienced. And there's probably lots of feelings around that too. But let's just think about the change part. What changes are coming up for you? So maybe there's some stuff coming up closer, like we know summer's coming. Maybe we're doing something different in the summer that's fun, so something to think about. See what happens when you change your daily schedule today. So when you start each day, maybe you have a schedule up on your wall that you follow. Maybe you just know you wake up, you eat breakfast, you pull your hair back, you do whatever, you brush your teeth. I don't know why pull your hair back came first. You brush your teeth, you join and start the day. Maybe you go outside first, maybe you don't. So think about a way you can change up your routine. Maybe you eat something different for breakfast than you eat every day. Or maybe you go a step further and you do your schedule backwards. Maybe you do the last thing first, if that works for you. But think about ways you can change the schedule today and think about what changes do and how that affects you. What's going to happen? Maybe during your pod time, friends, maybe someone could lead a meeting or do something a little different than you usually do. See what happens. Um, and there's a lot of changes that are going to happen around us as we grow. But it's important to kind of focus in on, like, what am I experiencing right now that's different? So I'm going to read a little book that you might hear again in the coming months as we get into babies and then talk about transformation. But I thought it was a perfect book to kind of focus on the word change. And it's called Changes, right? And what do you see on the cover? Think about what you see on the cover. Yeah, two different kinds of trees. But do you think they're the same tree? Or are they different trees? Or did they have a change? So this book is called Changes. If you take off the S, it's just the word change. Changes. all things go through changes. Do you see how the flower started out as a bud and then it bloomed? When you walk around your neighborhood, maybe you've seen flowers like that, or when you buy flowers from the store and they're in a vase, as they grow in the water, sometimes we see that happen too. From fiddleheads to uncurled ferns, scattered pine cones, forest, tall. Flowers peek through the last snow. As winter's gray turns to green. Milkweed clusters bloom in spring, and feathered seeds in autumn dance lightly in the wind. Those feathered seeds are, do you know what those flowers are called? Dandelions. They were my favorite as a kid. Sun gives way to clouds, clouds and wind to rain. So the weather goes through changes, right? And winter's cold brings ice and snow. So sometimes when the weather feels a certain way, new things happen, changes happen. Seasons change. We all know that, right? See if you can recognize these seasons that are changing. I see all 4 seasons represented here. And I think I see all those trees in Brooklyn, all those different types of trees. And often they're the same tree, changing. Spring blossoms yield summer fruit. So sometimes those trees that have spring blossoms on them, later on they're going to have fruit. In autumn, corn grows high. All things change. And then they change again. You see that butterfly there, right? In the cocoon. From fragile eggs to birds. In flight. From spotted fawn to great horned buck. And piglet, small. Look at that little piglet. To a giant sow. That's an adult pig, very big pig. Horses too, foal to mate. That's a baby horse and an adult horse. All things go through changes. What is that? We'll talk about more about those next month, right? Babies. As they grow. Look at this child. This is a child that went through a change over time. You'll go through changes over time too. Do you think that's the same little girl as she grew? She grew. She changed a little bit as she grew. Think about how old they might be there. And you can see on the back too. You see how this child grew from a baby to a little toddler boy to a big boy. So different ways we go through change, and everybody goes through changes. And I want you to think about the changes you've experienced this year. Okay. I hope you get some time to explore this topic. Have a great weekend.